Hello, everybody. Welcome to FSU Coach Live. My name is Tim Baghurst, and today's guest is Jim Durham. He's the head coach for USA Racquetball. Coach, thanks so much for joining me. If you wouldn't mind, just give us a little bit of your sporting athletic background and then how you got into the job you have today.
My first coaching, helping with the youth team when I right out of high school. So started, and of course, three, fourth school, and when I got out, started playing rap, looking for something.
Let me pause you there because now we had audio issues before we started. Now I can't hear any of your audio. So let's go back to the iPad we were using, and we'll try again.
Okay. Does that help?
No. Jumping in and out. It's more important they hear you than me, that's for sure.
I'm trying link again. Okay. Sure.
Okay, how does that sound?
All right. I can hear you fine.
Okay, good. So let's start again. Apologies for that. And if you wouldn't mind, just tell everybody a little bit about how you got to where you are today as coach of USA Racquetball.
Well, I started playing racquetball right out of college, and I've pretty much played continuously since then. So, I've seen the whole progression of the sport from almost. I mean, I missed the Brumfield glory years. Starting with Hogan and through that. I, at the same time, got a teaching credential and began coaching in the Clovis Unified School District. And I've coached everything, for 30 years since then, more than 30 years, track, cross country, basketball, baseball, flag football, both men's and women's of both. And when I retired, I've known Dave Ellis, who was the former national team coach, and he and I have had hundreds of conversations through the years and talked about racquetball. And of course, I watched John, his great son, grow up in that era. And Dave asked me to be an assistant coach with him at Barranquilla, at the Pacific Championship. And I enjoyed that. Got to know some people, and Cheryl Kirk was there. He was great to work with. And so when Dave decided to retire, I said, "All right, I'll throw my hat in the ring." And here I am.
What was the motivation though for doing it? Because it's a high profile position, right? Okay, racquetball may not be the massive sport that others are, where they're on TV all the time and things like that, but you're still a very visible person within the sport itself, and part of that is the opportunity for success, but then there's also that kind of side of it where you may be criticized for decisions that you make or the way you coach or for things like that. So at this point in your career, what what's the motivation to kind of be willing to take that on?
It was not an easy decision. Dave encouraged me, and John and some other influential people. But me, I'm retired. My life was, it was a great life. I get up, I do what I want, I mountain bike, I play racquetball. So yes, those factors were, okay, you're going to have to face that. And there's also those responsibilities, those weeks of being away from home. And in the end, it was like, it'll be exciting to be around the best players in the world. I've been in this sport forever. It'd be fun to give back. You're certainly not making a big paycheck. So it's a labor of love. And I still love watching racquetball. I'm one of those weirdos. I can go watch two beginners play, and I can really enjoy just watching what's going on. This guy's running around, he's the getter, and this guy's hitting a little better shots, and I just enjoy the whole thing. So I don't mind sitting and watching a lot of racquetball. And I've seen many different styles, so I thought I had something to bring to the table as well. So
when you look at
do that.
At the team itself, you mentioned Dave Ellis, who was a longtime coach of USA Racquetball. Now all of a sudden we have a shift from somebody who, as you mentioned, their son was very successful to this. If you're outside of California, or maybe you don't go to national championships, it may be, who's this Jim Durham guy? And so there's maybe that opportunity for you to establish a different culture or to have a different philosophy to what was there before. However, you're working with players who've probably played under that previous administration. How do you do this, especially in light of COVID, which has changed everything, but how do you build your brand of racquetball, your culture into the team? Do you do anything specific, even though we're all virtual right now?
Well, it's been difficult because, of course, where you build trust and where you build relationships are, in that forge of competition, to be together in that environment where you have, adversaries and you're planning. So it's difficult to gain that trust with COVID going on. I spent 30 years coaching, and when you're spending every day with your team, they know you. They can see it every day in practice. They can hear the passion in your voice. All those things. So on Fridays, when Friday comes around and you're all making decisions and you're all striving to win, you can make mistakes. I can call the wrong play. It's that play. You just keep battling right on through. Everybody's there. Everybody's together. Everybody trusts one another. Everybody knows we're out there for the best. So this challenge, this USA Racquetball Challenge, where you have all of these individual players scattered around the country, you're not working with them on a daily basis, it is quite a challenge to create that team feeling. Now, fortunately, with our team, we have a lot of great attitudes. A lot of people who they want to win, and they realize, hopefully, that the coach is part of that team, part of that win. And my experience with all of the players so far has been nothing but positive. I have feedback from them, that they don't want any input from me or. My input has been accepted. Now, whether or not they do it or not, that's fine. But they've been grateful that I at least had some ideas and threw them out there. So it's difficult though, because in this situation, in a game situation, if I feel like if you make that wrong call, like you ask them, oh, you should go with the driver down the line, and the guy's there waiting for it, and he rips across court and wins. Sort of on my side, you feel like that has much greater impact than it would like with a team sport where you're a football coach, you call the wrong play all the time. That one didn't work, the next one might. So you do feel a little bit like you have to be more perfect if you're going to make a call.
We had a question for you that came through, and I think this is a relevant one specifically in COVID, and we should say internationally. I mean, we don't know when your next tournament will be. So in light of that, the question was from Wyndham, hey coach, how do you motivate your players to work out and get ready with all of these uncertainties? And, I know professionally there's a tournament in January and there's one for the women coming up this weekend. But after that, no one really knows when we're going to have more tournaments guaranteed. So it's easy for athletes to go, you know what, why am I putting in all this work for 3 months when it might be 6 months before I get another tournament? And when we talk about internationally, we may not see a tournament until, who knows, maybe this summer. And so you got this huge period of, I represent USA, but, how do I stay motivated for 6 months?
Well, I'll go with an old John Madline here. They asked him how he motivated his players. And he said, I don't motivate them, I hire motivated people. And I think there's a little truth to this, or a lot of truth, that these players got where they are because they're highly motivated by themselves. I do send out, I have the men on a text list, and I have our women's players on another text list, and I have the whole team on an email list, and I try to keep a little communication going that way. Hey, we're still here. COVID's going to end sometime, and we need to stay ready.
I know you haven't had the opportunity to be the head coach at a major event yet, just because of the coronavirus. You mentioned that you were an assistant coach at the Pan Am Championships a couple of years ago. Given what you've seen there, do you feel like there's a need to change the way you coach depending on whether the athlete is a male or female? Because you just mentioned you have 2 different email lists. So I'm wondering why do you have 2 different email lists?
Yeah, I do. I have 2 different text lists, and I do have a list email that goes out to everyone.
Sure.
The very first women's team I ever coached was Firebar Junior High, the 7th and 8th grade women's basketball team. And the coach, Marika Schouten, she didn't want to coach anymore. She wanted to just concentrate on volleyball. Just look, for 1 year, I'll be your assistant coach. And I'll help you out. And I learned a lot from her that year. I mean, I was running the practice, and she would come over and go, hey, you need to watch Maria and Debbie over there because they're doing this and that. And really, the biggest lesson I learned was that you have to pay more attention to interpersonal relationships with women's sports, and just the way you express yourself. And some things have to be a little different. And also, you put a whole bunch of people on a text, and you don't want to just flood the text with answers, and so it's easier sometimes to have smaller groups do text.
When we talk about the environment that we're in now, and we don't know when we're going to have a tournament again, and situations like that, how do you stay busy doing something productive as a head coach? Because it would be easy for you, just like your players, to go, you know what, we're not having a tournament for 6 months, so I'm not going to worry about this for 3 months because it's not going to be relevant. So what are you doing right now that benefits you and your athletes so that in 6 months' time, when there's a tournament, you're better prepared than you would have been?
Well, one of the concrete things, I went to Vegas. You were there. And I really didn't go to play. I mean, I did play, but I just wanted to be there to be around the players. I don't have to talk to them a lot or anything else. Just be there, be a face, be part of racquetball, and I think that's important. Now, it has been difficult. I watch a lot and I analyze matches online. So I want to be ready. I watch those matches and I have some scouting charts that I keep for myself. And what I want to be ready for with those, I want to know our opponent. And I want to be ready for what I call that one thing. If we're playing a match against Colombia, sometimes things can turn on just one thing. So I want to know those other players so that if a situation like that presents itself, I know that one thing. They have trouble with this serve, or they always use this. This is their go-to serve when it's 14-14, or whatever it might be. I want to be ready for that one thing. So really just watching. Sometimes you have to watch a match over 2 or 3 times, and then all of a sudden something clicks. That's why I like the scouting reports. It isn't so much the report itself, is keeping the report makes you really watch something carefully. You have to pay attention to every point, and I play the point over again. And so that's what I'm doing. I am keeping in touch with the players, but I'm also scouting the other teams, trying to be as knowledgeable as I can when we get to those matches.
When you became head coach, you also have the opportunity to hire an assistant coach or assistant coaches. How do you go about doing that? Do you have a specific process? Is it something where you look for specific qualities in somebody? What do you do that? Because that's a big challenge for a head coach, is choosing assistant coaches that make the team and make you better, as opposed to being a distraction or maybe not what you hoped.
Well, when I became coach at Tempe National Doubles, Debbie Tyson was there. She had already been the coach at the Pan American Championships. So she was the obvious choice because she has that fresh knowledge right there. She's just been to the Pan Am Games. She knows the women there. She knows the game. She's seen it. And at that point, we had a tournament coming up just in a few months. She's really a great student of the game as well. I mean, you can't find someone who knows more about the game than Debbie. So that was easy. As far as having a process, since I don't have one, I guess maybe in the future when that becomes important, I'll figure that out.
When you
there is a committee. I mean, a lot of people have to weigh in on that one. So.
Yeah, and that kind of led to my next question about just, now you're a head coach. You're not just Jim Durham on Instagram or Facebook or someone like that. You also represent something much bigger than yourself. Have you found that you've had to change anything about how you interact with people or social media because of the position you now hold?
Yes. I have. I'm much more circumspect about what I post on some of the social media. I've really tried to keep it mostly things I'm doing in life. What I'm doing, not politics and not something else. This is what my life's about. This is what I'm doing. This is my family. These are my recreation. And once in a while, if somebody else posts something political, I might chime in. But it's definitely has changed my perspective about social media. You don't want to be alienating people who are racquetball players and they have their point of view, and you want to respect that. And I think that's just important right now. Anyway, that we start to respect. I think a lot just comes back to respecting each other and their thoughts and their opinions.
When you look at coaching as a whole, you've been a coach across many different sports for many years. Given what you've learned along the way and what I suspect you're still learning in this new role, what advice would you have for those who are looking to get into the coaching profession or maybe improve as coaches?
Are you talking just any level coach?
Yeah.
Like, well, I think getting into coaching, it's a science and it's an art and it's a profession. So I think you have to be a lifelong student. If you get into it and think you're just going to coach like your favorite coach or like somebody else's style, and you're going to stop there, that's not going to work. You need to grow every year. You need to become better. You need to follow the latest science about it. It is a science. When I first started coaching, I know I was much more into running a lot of strict drills and those kind of things. And through the years, I became much more interested in coaching creatively and having the kids have creative games that so their skills came with creative play and not just through drills. So I know just be ready to be a lifelong learner, a lifelong coach. And disciplines and being organized is super important. I don't think I saw a lot of first-year coaches come in and they just didn't realize, when people show up at practice, discipline is first because everybody's got to do what you want to do when you say it. That's going to make a structured, quick, very productive practice. You don't have that discipline with your players, then you can have all the great ideas in the world, and they probably aren't going to work.
Final questions then. When you look at coaching, one of the first questions I think to many coaches is why do you coach? I mean, you talked about it. You don't have to, right? You're living the retirement life. Why do you coach? And then the second question is, what is the hardest thing about coaching that you've seen over the years?
I think I'll just tell a story and tell you why, Coach.
Okay.
I had a student in junior high, and she was born without hands. She had two opposing digits, and she happened to have been in my class. And super hard worker, and willing to experiment. Like, I can't pick up a bat, well, let's see how that might work. How can I get a baseball going? How can I throw a ball? All those challenges. And a couple years later, we worked a lot, but a couple years later, she's playing right field. She starts. A ball is hit to right field, a pretty nice line drive. She fields it. She gets it. She takes it like a softball throw. She fires it to second base and gets the runner at first base. And, I hear one of the more vocal girls in the other team, she says, wow, she did that pretty well. And right there, when you know that was no mistake. That was hours of practice. That was dedication. That was creativity. All in that one moment. All coming to fruition. And that happens all throughout sports. Those moments can be with anybody. Just somebody shooting a free throw, and you like to tuck that elbow in, and they're looking, and that you guys all worked on that. That's why I coach.
Well, to follow up, if coaching was easy, everybody would do it. And so that second question is, what is something that you found the hardest being a coach?
I always found it a joy. So I'm trying to think of something I think of as, I think all the organization, I mean, just as a school coach, all of the, just the, arranging all the bus trips and getting funds for the uniforms and getting all the uniforms back in and being super organized. So, all those uniforms for next year and ordering the equipment. And so all of those organizational and tasks and everything, that you have to do. I would say those were the things that challenged me. Like, yeah, I don't really want to do that, but I got to do it.
No, I understand, and I think it's a relevant point. A lot of people think that maybe, I want to be a coach and I want to be on the sideline or at the court as you are, and that's all that coaching is. Where the reality is, much of it goes on outside of those moments. Thanks so much for joining me today. Yeah. Thanks so much for joining me today. If somebody has questions they want to follow up with you, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Jim13@gmail.com. Be glad to answer any questions.
For those of you listening to the podcast, it's Jim Durham, Durham 13, the number 13 at gmail.com. Well, Coach, thanks so much for joining me.
Hey, before we leave, Tim, these guys got to know that you are one of the great announcers in racquetball. You're everywhere. Your voice is the voice of racquetball in many ways, of international racquetball. So it's been fun talking with you.
Thank you so much, of course, for your insight and experience. And I really hope that you're able to get out there next year and get doing what you actually signed up to do. So I know you're as frustrated as all of us trying to get back into sports. Just a reminder, of course, if you're joining us for the first time, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel or Facebook. We have interviews coming almost every week. Lindsay Shoup, an Olympic gold medal winning rower, will be joining us next week. But on behalf of myself, Tim Baghurst, and Jim Durham, thank you so much for watching.